What's going on? This is Marcus, and we're going to go through today's upper body focused kettlebell workout. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through a double light kettlebell warm-up. We'll go through the workout, and then at the end of this, I'll go over a little technique stuff, so that way, hopefully, you can move better with the kettlebell, or without the kettlebell. So for this warm-up, ideally you have a couple light kettlebells. If you don't, we'll do it with single too, but I always do things with singles, so just to show you, especially for those of you that picked up a bunch of kettlebells a couple years ago, for whatever reason, and want to have some different things to do with it. So the warm-up is going to be a few different things. They are fantastic for your shoulders, for your upper back, and I like to do them in combination with some mobility drills just to feel nice and limber. And I always love seeing, I was just about to say, I love seeing where y'all are from, so definitely throw that in there. All right, so with the light kettlebells, the first one we're gonna do is shoulder openers. So I do shoulder openers all the time, to the point where it's like, all right, how open can your shoulders be? Not open enough. So the idea here is if I'm gonna do a single bell, hold in the rack position, I'm gonna lift up my elbow and try to pull my shoulder as far back as possible. So in this case, I'm gonna keep a nice square hip. So I'm not gonna rotate with it. But as I get a little bit more proficient with my movement, then I can start opening up a little bit more. I'm not putting any excessive stress on my lower back. I feel good. All right, so this is a shoulder opener. The way we're gonna do this is we're gonna use two bells and we're gonna alternate back and forth. Oh, India, nice. I was about to yell Idaho. All right, so with both bells, you're gonna hold the rack position. We'll start off nice and slow. I'm gonna lift up, pull back, and then come back. Lift up, pull back, and come back. So I really like this one for opening up my shoulders and getting myself prepared for pressing. So now, the way that we're going to enhance this is we're going to add a little movement, a little rotation, a little thoracic rotation. So from here, I'm going to rotate back, and then I'm going to rotate the other arm back and forth. So while I'm doing this, I'm keeping my glutes and my abs engaged to avoid putting excessive stress on my lower back. But what this does is it kind of loads up the thoracic rotation that you might have played around with. It loads that up, and you just feel that throughout your ribs, your intercostals, your upper back, your shoulders, and it just feels freaking awesome. So that's why I'm using very lightweight. I'm using 18 pounds, whatever is light for you. You can use this with light dumbbells. So the goal here is I'm lifting up my elbow, rotating back. So it's almost like a figure eight. Think of it as like a figure eight. Try that before doing any kind of pressing or pulling or before your workouts. You're gonna feel super open. I like to come into my gym, do those first thing in the morning. So just again, feels really good, especially if you've been sitting for a long time or sleeping or doing anything. So, and then we'll make sure we go the other direction now. So back and forward. So I'm just setting the timer, doing it for about 15, 20 seconds. Not too long, just enough to start to feel this through my upper back, my shoulders. Back and forth. Woo! That feels good. Starting to feel that back start to warm up. Oh, there we go. Next one we're gonna do for this double light kettlebell warm up, we're gonna go into some bent over scap pulls. So kind of like a bent over row. I don't want to go too horizontal. I'm gonna be a little bit upright, a little more Yates style. But from here, I'm gonna pull my shoulders back. I'm gonna let my shoulders protract. So I'm letting the bells come down. I'm gonna pull up, squeeze, and then right back down. Up, squeeze, right back down. So all I'm doing is protraction, retraction right in here. But I'm gonna go from this bent over position. So I have to maintain that tension, get my hamstrings, glutes to light up here. And I love using any kind of shoulder protraction, retraction. So letting the shoulder come out, pulling the shoulder back in, just to teach that shoulder locked position before you do any kind of ballistic work. So just a few reps there. Getting the scaps lit up, upper back, shoulders feeling good. Now we're going to switch it. If you have heavy enough kettlebells or wide enough of a diameter of kettlebell, then you can do these. Otherwise, just do them from the ground. But we're going to do some protraction, retraction out from the other direction. So I'm sinking in, and then I'm pushing out, protracting the shoulder blades. Other scapula. Back and forth. Just about 5-6 reps here. And we'll go through that one more time. So if you did nothing else, if you're like, Marcus, you know what? I'm going to enjoy my coffee, my breakfast burrito. Do this. This is going to be a great way to open up the shoulders and just warm up those joints. And it feels really good. Like already, right off the bat, everything just feels nice and open. Posture feels a little bit better. So I'll go back to the shoulder openers. So I'm alternating back and forth. Like I said, just go for about 15-20 seconds or 3 to 5 reps. Not too much. And I'll go the other direction now. I'm heading in that thoracic rotation and that sudden extension back and forth. So that way, I really feel this throughout my entire upper body or my entire upper back. So just without weights, making sure you're understanding how to get that thoracic rotation and then adding in all the other positions so that way you can get that nice mobility throughout your upper back, because we're so focused on the lower back, focused on the hips, the shoulders, but I want to make sure your mid back is somewhat mobile. Right into those bent over scap pulls. You can add a little bit of rotation here, so a little internal rotation and pull it up. So thumbs come towards your feet or turn towards your legs, and then rotate and squeeze. You can even add a little bit of hip movement in there. And last one, into those scap push-ups. So pull down. So this is a very subtle movement, so you don't want to go too fast with this. Anytime I see people do any kind of like scapular pulls, there's a lot of elbow bend. The goal here is just to move through the shoulders. So moving that scapula through these different positions. So that's the warm-up. And right there, we're done. That's all we need. So, all right, we'll go into the workout now. So we're gonna go through is the upper body centric workout. I want you to do something relatively light, at least for the second 2 movements. The first movement, we can go a little bit heavier. I'm gonna go through this as a circuit. If I were to do this myself, I would stick to probably straight sets and give myself enough rest so that I can put as much output as I can and use as heavy a weight as I could. You can absolutely just do this as a circuit, make it your conditioning focus. It's all good. All right, so we're gonna start off with the half kneeling clean and press. So even though there's still gonna be a little bit of a hinge, you're still gonna engage your lower body a bit. It's gonna be predominantly upper back, shoulders that we're gonna be working here. So we're gonna load up, we're gonna get right knee on the ground. I'm gonna grab the bell with my right hand. We're gonna do a dead start clean in that I'm not gonna swing with it. I'm gonna pull straight up and then go into the press and then come right back down. So I'll leave it from a profile so you can see there still is a slight hinge. I'm not gonna be completely upright, otherwise it's just gonna be a curl. So slight hinge, I'm gonna explode up, go right into the press, keep my balance, right back down. So what I want you to do with this is use a heavy enough weight that it will challenge you, but a light enough weight that you can control that eccentric. You don't need to have an excessively slow lowering, but I want you to go in that 2 to 4 second range. So explode up, press, 1, 2, 3, 4, right back down. Explode up, press, 1, 2, 3, 4, right back down. So you can play around with where you drop the bell in terms of where you start off. If you come out a little bit further, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. As you bring it closer to your midline, closer to right underneath you, it's going to be a little bit easier because you'll have a little bit more clearance. So we'll do a couple more. Press, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Wow. Press, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh! Half kneeling presses are freaking phenomenal. I love half kneeling presses. Just a great exercise for your entire upper body, but a lot of core engagement. If you're using this contralateral position, so if my same knee that's down, I'm using that arm, there's a little bit more stability needed. If I were to switch, make it more ipsilateral, so same side, fancy way of saying that, I have a little bit more stability, so I can go a little bit heavier. So you can kind of play around with it. You can even do tall kneeling, where it's a lot more core work. All right, ready, other side. Press, 4, 3, 2, 1, right back down. So notice now, I'll give you another profile. Notice right in here, notice your ribs. As you're pressing, what I wanna make sure you're not doing is you're not leaning back. The beauty of the half kneeling position is it kind of locks you into place, so you have to lower the weight and you have to focus on keeping everything engaged. Because you're in this half kneeling position, we're automatically in that posterior tilt, so glutes engage, so it kind of locks everything, so you can't really hyperextend through that lower back. You can, but it makes it a little bit more difficult. So if you have a little bit less range of motion in this press position, just go as high as you feel comfortable. What I don't want you to do is start to try to cheat and drive your hips and move all around. So press, pull, down, nice and slow. Let's do 2 more. Pull down nice and slow. Create a lot of tension, so explode and then tense. I mean, I'm still keeping tension through that explosion, but not quite as much. All right, so that was movement numero uno. Half kneeling, clean and press. We're gonna make it strength focused, so I want you to go in that 6 to 10 rep range there. From here, we're gonna get onto the ground. We're gonna go into a controlled pass-through. I like pass-throughs because they're a really fun, what's up, Chris, in Germany? Germany. I love pass-throughs just because we're getting some core work, we're getting some shoulder stability. The thing, and I've done this too, so I'm not even saying this as a negative, but there's a lot of extra movement as you drive your hips. I want to focus on creating a lot of tension through the upper body and through my core, so I have to slow things down. So from here, I'm gonna get this push-up position. I'll start with the belt on one side. I'm gonna squeeze, and I'm gonna control. So whether I pick it up or I slide it, whatever you are able to do. So if you're on like wood floors, just put it on a towel. Try not to shift your hips excessively here. Try not to shift your hips. Woo! So I'm controlling this as much as possible, slowing down the movement. So one more. Oh my God. So again, this is upper body focus, but it is going to be significantly more challenging if you slow things down and really try to focus on your hips. Don't worry so much about your arm pulling the weight across. Focus on keeping your hips completely stable. As you pull across, you start to feel everything all the way in there. Hello, Marcus, from Ukraine. What's going on? Appreciate you on here. If you have any kettlebell questions, let me know, because at the end of this, I will go through those, and then I'm going to go through a little technique talking about the kettlebell swing. So, all right, last one we're going to do. So, it's kettlebell blasphemy. So before you're like, that's not what you're supposed to do with kettlebell, I don't play by the rules on what you do with kettlebell. I never have, ever since I started with this. I learned a lot of different things. But yes, you can still curl a kettlebell. You can still do isolation exercises. There's nothing wrong with that. The way I like to do them is I'm going to do it with the kettlebell. We're going to do it upside down, so it's going to be a lot of grip engagement, a lot of grip work. So we're going to combine 3 things. We're going to combine a curl, a halo, can't think, and a tricep extension. So from this top position right here, I'm going to slowly go around into this halo. Now notice how I'm not leaning back. So if I don't have that shoulder mobility, then I'm not going to do this movement, or at least I'm not going to go as far back. I might go a little bit higher. So what's it going to look like from here? We'll bring it down to the knees just to make it a little bit easier, or harder, I should say. Come around. Once I get to this back position, abs engage, control tricep extension. So it's more about finding that range of motion, challenging yourself. Slow, slow, slow. And then we're going to come back up, back in the other direction. Control, control, control. So I love this one. Not so much even for the biceps and triceps. I love it more for that shoulder mobility and for my grip. My grip is just on fire doing this. And you do not need to go heavy here. This is literally more for me about making sure my elbows stay healthy, my shoulders feel good, and just giving myself a little time and attention with some push, some pull, and some rotation. And right back. So you can use that one as a way to warm up your elbows and shoulders. If you want to do like just an arm day, it's totally fine. Incorporate that to warm things up. There's my head. Otherwise, you can do that even as a finisher. That's a fun little finisher there. All right, so we'll go through that one more time. And we'll have some fun with it. So starting off with those half kneeling clean and presses. We'll go control on this one. I'll go for time so I don't have to think about reps. Let's go for 45 seconds here. So remember, we're controlling. Come on, timer. We're controlling that negative. 4, 3, 2, 1. Repeat. So even with that initial pull, notice how there's a slight hinge. I'm leaning, driving my hips back, so I have a little bit of clearance to be able to pull from. If I'm completely upright, it's just going to be basically a curl. Right back down. It's like 40 degrees in this garage, and somehow there's an effing mosquito in here. What the hell? I thought they were all dead. And then to get a little bit more out of this, really focus on squeezing your glutes. That's how committed I was to that set. That bit. All right, other side. Focus on squeezing that. The knee gets down. Focus on that glute. Focus on your abs. Control, control, control. Right back down. So once I start that press, I double time that squeeze on the glutes, squeeze on my abs. You create full body tension if you want. That's fine. I don't find the need to do that all the time. And right back up. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Right back up. And then if the weight's light, you can absolutely incorporate the half kneeling snatch and then just do a full press. Press and a half. So that way you can get a little bit extra pulling in there. But like I said, half kneeling swing, or not, yeah, half kneeling swings are hard. Half kneeling cleans, half kneeling snatches, half kneeling windmills. I don't like doing explosive rotational work from the knees just because if I'm going to do rotational work, I want to be able to use my entire body, all the way from my ankles and knees up into the hips. So I don't personally like to do a lot of explosive rotational stuff from the knees. I think that puts a lot of stress on the lower back. That's kind of unnecessary. But you can still do rotational work or controlled rotational work from there. That's fine. So, all right, back into the pull-throughs with a lot of control, ton of control. So as I pull, I'm going to slide on this because that's going to make it a little bit easier. Control. At this point, you'll realize you made a huge mistake. Squeeze your glutes. Focus on your hips. Try not to rotate your hips as you do this. Even if that lessens the range of motion, maybe you're only pulling the bell straight across, maybe a half a foot, or maybe just picking up a few inches across. But even a lightweight is going to be excessively challenging. I reached too far. Oh my gosh. I'm not anti, core or sit-ups or anything like that. I think there's better ways to do it where you integrate your entire body. Things like that, things like get-ups, those are a much better choice for most people. Not everybody, for most people. All right, last one. We'll do the curl tricep extension. We're going to go slow and control. No extra movement, no extra movement. And back. Control. So again, what I like this one is helps my elbows just feel really good, and then my shoulders, especially when I'm going controlled as I'm doing this. And back. Right into that curl. This is only 25 pounds, but as you go really slow, especially with the belt upside down like this, You're gonna feel this through your wrists, through your forearms, and it's gonna force you to lower the weight, and you can't just muscle it up. Oh. Ah! All right, so I'll have that workout saved on here, but that was essentially the workout. I really like that one. Like I said, if I was gonna do that, it would be more from a strength focus, take some time in between each one. I'm not going to try and do that as a circuit like fast pace, just because I want to be able to use the heaviest weight I can for the clean and press. I want to be able to use a challenging weight and not start to cheat with the hips, doing the pull throughs. And then I really want to tax my grip, my forearm, my arms, and my shoulders with the Halo+Curl+Tri Ext thing. So a lot of people, like I said, they'll be like, oh, kettlebells are just for swings and clips. Let's utilize these tools and acknowledge the fact that they are different looking. They have a different anatomy than a dumbbell. So there are going to be some inherent differences in how our body receives that weight. So curling dumbbells versus curling kettlebells is going to be challenging in a slightly different way. Doesn't make it better, doesn't make it worse. It's just different. All right, I'll check to see if there's any questions, but just want to talk about the kettlebell swing really quick, because one of the things that I see a lot of and still see a lot of argument and discussion on is how much you should hinge as you get into the bottom of the swing. So every body is different, but there are some universal principles that we want to acknowledge as we're doing swings. And this applies if you're doing 2 hand swings, 1 arm swings, staggered swings, rotational swings. You want to make sure that you're still feeling it in the right place. Got 3 messages in the last 24 hours of people that are like, how do I make sure swings don't hurt my back? And there are so many tutorials in here. There's so many people talking about that. So just to add a little bit, a couple things we want to maintain. So number 1, when you practice the hinge, and I love the saying, and I got this from John Wolf, and I believe he got this from Jiu-Jitsu, or tweaked it from Jiu-Jitsu. But the whole idea with Jiu-Jitsu, before you try to get a choke or a hold, it's all about the position. Get your position before the transition. So the idea here is I want to find my position before I start moving quickly. So it's all about incorporating isometrics and really focusing in on what that should feel like, how you maintain your breath, how you maintain that level of tension that's going to keep you safe. So rather than just getting a bell and start swinging, which I've absolutely seen in different gyms, the focus here is finding the position for you. So when we get into a hinge, the common mistake I see is people hinging too far. So they hinge. Now their hips aren't going back anymore, but they're going to keep going. So if they keep going, but their hips aren't going back any further, then all we're doing is we're just accessing lower back. So we want to avoid that. Just go back as far as your hips coming back will allow. So it might be a little bit higher. It might be a little bit more bendy at the knees. The main thing here is shoulders above hips, load hamstrings and glutes. You're still going to load your quads. It's not so hip dominant that you're like, oh, my quads are completely turned off and I'm just focusing on hamstrings. Of course not. It's all going to assist here. So as we're in this position right here, now what I want you to do is get into some pelvic tilts. So it might be called twerking, whatever the hell you want to call it, but I want you to round your back, and then I want you to arch as much as you can. Round your back, and then arch, keeping your shoulders in that same position. When I arch, you'll notice we're tilting that pelvis, and we're getting that elongation of the hamstring. So it's able to allow you, without any load, to find that tension in the hamstrings. And some people are hypermobile, and they'll be able to get in that position. They're not going to feel anything. That's like, in all the years I've trained people, it's like 1% or less. So most people, when they get into this position right here, they will be able to really feel that through the hamstrings. And then what I tell them, sit back a little bit more. So engage a little bit more knee, so you get a little bit more quad, takes a little bit more pressure off the lower back. And from here, plant your feet into the ground as hard as you can and tuck your arms as tight as you can. So all I want you to do is like you're fighting your arms to your body. You're squeezing as hard as you possibly can. I want you to feel that through your lats, through your upper back. I want you to feel almost like your shoulders are retracting as you get into this position here. And what this is going to do is, number 1, it's going to give you this cue, this physical cue of your arms against your body to maintain that tension through your front side, which is where most back pain comes from, not enough anterior front side core tension. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And then stand up. When you stand up, squeeze the glutes. Don't worry about if it's excessive posterior, anterior tilt, whatever. Just squeeze your glutes, squeeze your abs. It's fine. And right back, squeeze, squeeze. Push your arms against your body while simultaneously squeezing, getting that anterior tilt. So trying to arch your lower back as much as you can, and then stand up. And then last one, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Push your arms against your body. Oh my God. That can be very warm up because I'm sweaty as heck. So now what you're going to do is you're going to do that with the kettlebell. I'm going to grab a light kettlebell because it's going to be very challenging. And all we're going to do is we're going to pull the bell back. So when I'm in the bottom position, I'm in the same position as I would get into as if it were ballistically loaded, except there's not going to be any explosiveness here. It's purely isometric. So I'm going to grab on the weight, break the bell in half, as we've all probably learned, pull the shoulders back. I'm going to drive back into that same position, and notice how I'm letting the bell come back. So I'm not letting it hang. I'm pulling my arms against my body. So you feel this through your lats. You feel this through your back. You feel this through your shoulders. Squeeze, breathe that tension, and then right back up. So I want you to think of it as like a cable pull through. So the weight is being pulled from behind, and I'm pulling myself up in that top position. We're not ballistic here. We're just focusing on squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 3, 2, 1. Right back. 3, 2, 1. One more time. 3, 2, 1. All right. So if swings are new to you, all this is new to you, give that one a try. I love that drill. You can speed it up, turn it into a compact swing where I'm not letting my arms come forward. It really helps engage hamstrings, glutes, mid-back, focuses on keeping that core tension. So I'm not just moving fast, because as with any ballistic exercise of any kind, doesn't matter what the modality is, if you can break it down into such a bite-sized piece that you can incorporate either an isometric or a very slow and controlled aspect of that movement, it's going to allow you to understand how that movement works, the trajectory of the weight, what you need to be doing with your entire body, how you need to be breathing, all those things. So that way you can apply the right thing for the right person, and then no movement is off limits for anybody. There's always going to be a progression, regression for every single person. So right there, that will light you up. I'll use those as a warm-up. I'll use those for my clients or for my friends and family that I work out with in here. Like my dad came yesterday, he's 83, and he's always telling me, oh, I want to work out with you. And he came to pick up a ladder. I'm like, bro, you're working out now. So I had him do compact swings, just focusing on that hold. So he gets that positioning. He understands how to keep that tension and can move through it. Then we started at a little speed, and he feels good. I haven't talked to him today, but I'm assuming he feels good. I do that with my kids. I do that with athletes. I do that with any type of person, because it doesn't matter what your goals are, whether they're aesthetic, whether they're strength. Every one of us wants to feel better for the most part. And of course, there's going to be the weight chasers that are constantly trying to just put more weight in the bar, that they're like, body be damned, I'll sleep when I'm dead. That's fine. Those are the extremes. But for most people who want to feel good. So it doesn't matter what your tool is. If you can move well, if you can move fast, athletically, without pain, that's okay in my book. So anyway, that's all I got. Hopefully you got something from this. And if you did, awesome. And if you didn't, there's so much on here. Anyway, I'll check and see if there was any questions, anything. Chris, I did have fun. Appreciate that. If you are still on, what was your favorite exercise? What was your little aha, if you had one? If you're like, Marcus, I've heard this all before, 1,000 times over. I can't scroll anymore. Something's wrong with my phone. Something's wrong with my phone. Anyway, all right. Well, that's all I got. So thank you for joining me on this fine January 2nd. We're already in the 2nd. All right, it's the day after the first day. So got lots more on my page, kettlebell exercises, a lot of kettlebell stuff. Go with my page, and with any of these, it's just to show you what you can do with the kettlebell, how you can move better, how you can have more fun with your training, and still feel good, injury-free, and have a damn good time doing it. So, all right, that's all I got. I will see you all on the next one. We'll end stream there, but since I don't have I do have 2 arms.